Back. We've been gone for 2 weeks. It was a very fruitful trip that we took last week, so we're happy about that. But we're continuing on with Chapter 4, President Ikeda's lecture on the heritage of the ultimate law of life and death. Mm-hmm. We're going to continue on page 31.
Yep.
And this Chapter 4 is going to run, all of these chapters run around 10 pages. So, you know, we're going to start on Chapter 4, page 31, and the next chapter starts page 41. So we try to get through these 10 pages tonight. This chapter 4, is titled Life and Death as Functions of Myoho Rengekyo. So what would that be talking about? What is Myoho Rengekyo? Pardon me, what is life and death?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
The two phases of reality. You're either manifest or you're latent. Everything is either manifest or latent. All phenomena are either manifest or latent, right? Okay, so the compassion. I need some water, or else I'm going to kill everybody here at the table. It says, continuing on page 31, life and death as functions of Myoho Rengekyo, a compassionate and hope-filled view of life and death. So why does he stick that little perspective there? The next day he says, a compassionate and hope-filled view of life and death. Why does he title it like that? Because this is the Soka philosophy perspective of life and death and of this Buddhism. Okay? Do understand that. All right? So has anyone gone onto the other side and died and then come back and can validate for sure? Okay. So this is our philosophical perspective of the future. That's what he's basically saying, okay? And our philosophical perspective of the future, inclusive of our demise, is a compassionate and hope-filled view of life and death. Is to understand life and death correctly so that we don't dread death, we don't fear death, and we perceive death for what it actually is, and that we perceive life for the precious thing that it is, okay? So continuing President Ikeda's lecture on page 31. Nichiren Buddhism is a teaching that fully and clearly elucidates the meaning for overcoming the sufferings of birth and death. It is the Lotus Sutra, specifically the Lifespan 16th chapter, that clarifies the true nature of birth and death. Further, it is Nichiren Daishonin who, by teaching the essence of the Lotus Sutra in the latter day of the law, opened the way for all people to dispel the darkness of ignorance or illusion that is the basic cause of human suffering and attain eternal happiness over the three existences, past, present, and future, through his elucidation of the Buddhism of sowing and Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, right? Okay, Josei Toda, and this whole chapter is going to be to some degree about Soka philosophy, and Josei Toda said this, Josei Toda said that. Josei Toda, the second Soka Gakkai president, often remarked, the ultimate problem that Buddhism must resolve is the problem of death. The great wisdom of Nichiren Buddhism reveals the fundamental means for resolving the problems of both life and death and sets forth the path for elevating the life state of humankind. Okay? So that's the whole point here, is to give everybody an understanding of the truth so that they can be fearless in the process of being alive. He says, let us continue our discussion of the heritage of the ultimate law of life and study the profound principles of Nichiren Buddhism, the great teaching that can lead all humanity to enlightenment. Continuing bottom of page 31. Now we're going to read from the Gosho here. The two phases of life and death indicate life's boundless potential. From the Gosho. Myo represents death and Ho, life. Living beings that pass through the two phases of life and death are the entities of the 10 worlds, or the entities of Myoho Renge-kyo, literally the lotus of the entity. We've already discussed that many times. That's us, right? Those that of us that embrace the Gohonzai. Tentai, continuing the Gosho, Tentai says that one should understand, in profound meanings, he states, that one should understand that living beings and their environments, and the causes and effects at work within them, those living beings and those environments, are all the law of Renge, the lotus. Here, living beings and their environments means the phenomena of life and death. Thus, it is clear that where life and death exist, cause and effect, or the law of the lotus, is at work. The great teacher Dingyo states the two phases of life and death are the wonderful workings of one mind. The two ways of existence and non-existence are the true functions of an inherently enlightened mind. No phenomena, either heaven or earth, yin or yang, the sun or the moon, the 5 planets, or any of the worlds from hell to Buddhahood, are free from the two phases of life and death. Life and death are simply the two functions of Myoho Renge-kyo. In his great concentration and insight, Tentai says, arising is the arising of the essential nature of the law, and extinction is the extinction of that nature. Shakyamuni and many treasures, the two Buddhas, are also the two phases of life and death. So everything is one of the phases of life or death, right? In this writing, Nichiren gives a concise outline of the profound principles that explain why Myoho Renge-kyo is the ultimate law of life and death. In the last installment that we discussed 2 weeks ago, I discussed the original and inherent nature of life and death based on Nichiren's observations in the above passage regarding the relationship between them and the mystic law. Life and death and the mystic law, right? Nichiren, at the bottom of page 32, column 1, Nichiren indicates that these two phases, life and death, form an inherent and integral part of the mystic law. Now, what does that mean? That these two phases of life form an inherent and integral part of the mystic law. It's basically saying that that is what the mystic law consists of. These two phases of life and death form an inherent. It means that they're of the law itself. They're not from anything other than the law. They're inherent. They're contained within this law of the simultaneity of cause and effect, and that they're an integral part of it. Okay, because either life or death, these two phases are constantly expressing that law. Okay? Nichiren indicates, starting again, page 32, first column. Nichiren indicates that these two phases, life and death, form an inherent and integral part of the mystic law, the fundamental law of the universe, and that living beings of the 10 worlds who pass through these two phases of life and death are all entities of that law. That means that they're also inherent and integral in you, right? Okay, so this means that this means that the life and death of those who dwell in this Sahe world, this world of endurance, are not originally characterized by suffering and delusion, but are part of the eternal rhythm of the mystic law itself. Do you understand what he's saying there? What is he saying there? Let me read farther through this. This means that life and death, this means that the life and death of those who dwell in this Sahe world are not originally characterized by suffering and delusion, but are part of the eternal rhythm of the mystic law itself. This is the essence of the Buddha's enlightenment to the true aspect of the threefold world, which is described in the lifespan chapter of the Lotus Sutra. Okay, so what he just said there is that this means that the life and death of those who dwell in this Sahe world, this world of endurance, this world of suffering, that's what the Sahe world is, right? The world of delusion, of the 9 worlds, okay? Are not originally characterized by suffering and delusion. Their original character is not the state that you see now, in this moment the diluted, defiled state of everything, okay, but are part of the eternal rhythm of the mystic law itself. They're Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, therefore they are clean and pure, no matter how they appear in this moment. This is the essence of the Buddha's enlightenment. What's his enlightenment? To the true aspect of the threefold world. What's the threefold world? The threefold world is the world as it exists, right? So the true aspect of the threefold world is not delusion and suffering.
So it means when you are enlightened, you are free from delusion and suffering.
Right, because you perceive the true aspect of things as they actually exist. You don't, the suffering and delusion come from not perceiving the truth.
So even if you are very sick, with a big disease, if you
understand that's part of life, you have no delusion.
you have no delusion and no suffering, no.
No, there's suffering, but
No,
you
you
But the suffering cannot not exist.
Again, suffering is not something that means absence of pain. Okay, pain is a part of pain is a part of a function of birth. Okay, it's a function and part of death. We cannot be afraid of pain for Christ's sake, or we're really asking for an impossibility. Okay, no pain. I don't know of any religion. That's the whole basis of this. How to turn pain, which cannot be avoided, which is a part of the reality of life, into Buddhahood, into something that propels you into something that eliminates suffering and puts you on a path that it forms a concise gateway for you in terms of all of your future existences to be able to always experience this in this correct manner. When you're in a process here of understanding what the true nature of life is, okay, did you understand it until now? No, or you wouldn't be studying it now to discover what it is, right? Okay, so what this is doing is explaining to you what has been the true nature of all your suffering up until now.
So you say delusion?
Your delusion, that's the source of all suffering, is not perceiving the correct reality that you are the Buddha exactly as you are. You have no limitations, that there is nothing that affects you that you cannot overcome. He's going to go through all of that here as I continue to read. But it's important for you to understand where he's coming from here. So let me reread this one more time. Okay? Okay. This means that the life and death of those who dwell in the Sahi world are not originally characterized by suffering and delusion. Their original state is Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. That's the original state of all things.
So original state, can I say, is Buddhahood?
But it's pure Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. In other words, this is saying that the original state is not defiled. That everything that seems to be defiled is a defiled aspect of that original state, not the truth of that original state. That original state is Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. That's why you are an entity of the mystic law. What did you do to qualify? How many, have you converted hundreds and thousands of people and served many Buddhas for many lifetimes and all that other stuff? I mean, the bottom line is that you don't. That's not the thing that qualifies you as being an entity of the mystic law. Okay, you're an entity of the mystic law whether you did that or not, whether you get that or not. No matter what you think, you're an entity of the mystic law. That's your original state. He says right here, Nichiren indicates that these two phases of life and death form an inherent. What does inherent mean? It means it's of that original source. It's inherently there. It was never added. It was never something that was found that was created. An inherent thing is not created, right? It exists already. All right. You've got a perplexed look on your face. What is the thing that's perplexing you? What aspect of this doesn't make sense to you?
It's not. It doesn't make sense to me. It's just how to say. This is the Buddhist interpretation. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what this just said. That's what I was just qualifying a minute ago. This is definitely the Buddhist interpretation. Okay, now, if you don't perceive this interpretation as being the truth and correct, then you must not have what we would call faith in this teaching. Okay? And then why do we have the ability to utilize the power of our practice in daily life to overcome issues and to sustain a higher life condition, or one that brings us back to the Gohans that continue to do this? Okay? It's because we see actual proof of this theoretical truth. Because since no one's come back from death, that's what I was just reading here all this time. Right? I started this by qualifying that this is Nichiren's pitch on what the deal is. Okay? You're either with him and perceive.
No, but it's amazing that at that time he could have this thinking.
It's not amazing at all, because the fifth 500-year period had started, and there was only 500 years for the individual that understood this to appear. It was pretty narrow in the vast scheme of 10,000 years and beyond. Okay? It was in the first 500 years of Mappo. He had to make his advent because that's what the Lotus Sutra had said. Had he not, he would have been... It's the same thing as like, why did he have to go through whatever? Because he had to follow exactly what the Lotus Sutra said, or he couldn't qualify for everybody to be able to see. Oh, this is an extension of the teaching of the Lotus Sutra of the Buddha Shakyamuni. They don't revere Nichiren and this vastly more profound teaching. Everybody's still, Shakyamuni has created all of this delusion. Ultimately, yes, because it's become defiled. He says in the Lotus Sutra, abandon all my previous teachings, they've all been expedient means. Do all Buddhists believe that? Have all Buddhists abandoned everything but the Lotus Sutra? Okay, so then this isn't just the Buddhist perspective, this is the Nichiren Buddhism perspective. Okay? So when you have questions or issues about this, as it's being delineated by Daisaku Ikeda, as it's already been delineated by Nichiren Daishonin. And by the way, my understanding of this doesn't come from Daisaku Ikeda's lecture. Okay? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I've already made the connection I know is possible for anybody to make, because if I've made it, anybody can make it. Okay? This is the truth. This isn't anything other than the truth, or I wouldn't waste my time or take the chance of creating the karma to discuss it if I didn't already know or have, I should say, my belief that it's absolutely the case. Okay, so I forgot where we were that was causing any perplexity. Yes, this is the perspective of Buddhism, but more specifically, this is the perspective of the Buddhism of sowing, and more specifically, this is the Buddhism of sowing as perceived and utilized by the Soka philosophy. All right? Okay. Was that clear? Did that help at all?
Clear.
Okay,
No,
so,
it's
all right.
clear.
So,
Nichiren
Nichiren indicates that these two phases of life and death, starting on bottom of page 32 again. I'm going to read all the way through now. Through to the star. Nichiren indicates that the two phases of life and death form an inherent and integral part of the mystic law, the fundamental law of the universe, and that living beings of the 10 worlds, which is all of everybody, right? Who pass through the two phases of pass through these two phases of life and death. Everybody is born, everybody dies, right? They're all entities of the law, of that law. They're all entities of the mystic law. They are all entities of the lotus. Okay, the lotus that is the entity, that's everybody. But specifically those that are embracing the lotus, okay? That's how they bring it forth. But the aspect, the potentiality exists in everyone. This means that the life and death of those who dwell in this Sahe world, this world of suffering and endurance, are not originally characterized by suffering and delusion, but are part of the eternal rhythm of the mystic law itself. In other words, everything that they're manifesting in their life is part of this rhythm that is expressed through life and death of all things, right? This is the essence of the Buddha's enlightenment to the true aspect of the threefold world, which is described in the lifespan chapter of the Lotus Sutra. Viewed through the eyes of the Buddha, all living beings of the 10 worlds, all, not practitioners of the Lotus Sutra or believers of the Buddhism of sowing, all right, all entities, living beings of the 10 worlds, inherently possess infinite potential. They are entities of the mystic law. All right? The Buddha knows that there are no fundamental delusions or sufferings that cannot be surmounted. Okay? So the Buddha understands that all living entities are endowed with a power that ultimately, again, when you talk about sufferings or delusions and you talk about surmounting them, yes, we can make those advances so that that manifests in this lifetime. Okay? That's called attaining Buddhahood in your present form. But if we don't make it that far, are we just cut off? No, we continue on a path with teachers that bring us closer and closer. It's up to us to attain Buddhahood. But there will always be that fortunate reinforcement from individuals that will facilitate our win or lose. Because we'll either win or lose. We'll either decide to do the shit or not. We'll either be able to take on the challenge and the difficulty, or we won't. Okay? And if you don't, then none of this matters. None of this applies to you. Because you're not a bodhisattva of the earth, actually.
Right.
Okay? By virtue of you not being able to hang, sorry, you know, those are happy talk words as far as bodhisattvas of the earth. Bodhisattvas of the earth are those that never give up their faith in any lifetime whatsoever. That's how they're described in the sutra. Okay? So bodhisattvas of the earth don't ever go Titan. They don't ever get discouraged to the point that they can't take it anymore. Okay? They are the living examples of everything that Daisaku Ikeda is talking about. Daisaku Ikeda is a living example of everything Daisaku Ikeda is talking about. Okay? We all have the potential to be, but we have to join the club. We have to do the work. It's real simple. But it's very difficult. It's real simple. But it's very difficult.
Right.
Okay? And just so is weightlifting. So is working out. So is achieving any goal. So is going to 4 years of college and then getting a specialized degree from a higher, everything. Becoming a fireman is difficult. Okay? Everything in life has a predication of effort. Right? So he says, viewed through the eyes of the Buddha, all living beings of the 10 worlds inherently possess infinite potential. They are entities of the mystic law. The Buddha knows that there are no fundamental delusions or sufferings that cannot be surmounted. They can be surmounted, of course, over lifetimes, if not in a single lifetime. But they can be overcome in a single lifetime. But ordinary beings, for the most part, remain trapped in the cycle of birth and death in the sixth paths. Okay? With the four noble worlds, which reveal this truth, learning, realization, bodhisattva, and Buddhahood, right? These four noble remain much admired goals. This is the truth. But ordinary beings, for the most part, remain trapped in the cycle of birth and death in the six paths, with the four noble worlds remaining much admired goals, and the world of Buddhahood in particular, a state of true victory over the sufferings of birth and death, little more than an unreachable ideal or impossible dream. Okay? That's what we're talking about. The difference between bullshit and reality. Okay? Everybody's with me?
Yes.
All right. Page 32, second column. The entity of Myoho Rengekyo indicates life's transformative potential. Okay? It means it can be changed, but you have to make the effort and take the action to do so. To further clarify the true nature of the life and death of living beings of the 10 worlds, Nichiren Daishonin next speaks about the entity of Myoho Rengekyo, which in this passage literally translate as the lotus of the entity, or the embodied lotus versus the figurative lotus, which we've discussed, right? Everybody knows the difference, right? The embodied lotus represents the principle that all living beings of the 10 worlds are entities of the mystic law. It means that the lives of all living beings here and now are entities of the mutual possession of the 10 worlds and have the potential to manifest the highest world of Buddhahood just as they are. What's the significance of that? It means that the lives of all living beings here and now are entities of the mutual possession of the 10 worlds. Now, why is he suddenly expressing it as that? Entities of, instead of entities of the mystic law, he's talking about, because the mystic law is a simultaneity of cause and effect, right? Okay, so do you understand that how he's just changed from that way of saying it and expressing it to the mutual possession of the 10 worlds, because that is the simultaneity of cause and effect. The simultaneity of cause and effect is what allows for there to be a mutual possession of the 10 worlds. Do you understand? Right? So he's saying, here and now are entities of the mutual possession of the 10 worlds and have the potential to manifest the highest world of Buddhahood just as they are. They can bring forth the 10th world while they live in the other 9. The lotus or renge is a metaphor. And by the way, when we do that, what have we done? It means that the lives of all living beings here and now are entities of the mutual possession of the 10 worlds and have the potential to manifest the highest world of Buddhahood just as they are. Same as Nichiren. Okay? We are just like Nichiren. What we do is exactly what Nichiren did. The Buddhahood that we attain is the same Buddhahood as Nichiren. The truth that Nichiren understood, that is Nichiren's teaching of the Buddhism of the sowing, is the understanding of Buddhism, you called it a minute ago, that we're discussing and studying right now. We're doing exactly the same things as Nichiren. There's no separation between this process for him and for us. That's why we can call him the original teacher. He's taught us how to be just like him, the entity of the mystic law. Okay? Not theoretically, but in reality. I almost got it. Get that little sucker. Thank you. He attained Buddhahood when you do that. All right. The lotus or renge is a metaphor for the simultaneity of cause and effect, the principle that both cause and effect are contained in a single moment of life. In other words, it symbolizes the mutual possession of the 10 worlds. Regardless of which of the 10 worlds we may be experiencing at any given moment, so we can be suffering, whatever, we can experience in the other worlds at the very next, based on the action that we take, based on what we inherently know, the wisdom that we have. Okay, what do we do when we get hit with those lower life conditions and suffering circumstances, right? Most important, the lotus is a metaphor for our lives at each single moment, simultaneously possessing the cause and effect for attaining Buddhahood. That is the 9 worlds, the cause, and the world of Buddhahood, the effect. Everybody's with me? All right? When viewed in terms of the entity of Myoho Rengekyo, or the embodied lotus, our lives, which undergo the cycle of birth and death, are neither inherently good nor inherently evil. Right? We just have karma that reflects the actions that we've taken. We come from the purity of the original state, and then the karma paints what is actually being reflected as life. Because that's what's reflected as life, is your karma. Your environment, your parents, your everything. Okay? Your personality, everything. Your appearance, nature, entity, influence, yada yada, power, all of that stuff, right? All right, so when viewed in terms of the entity of Myoho Rengekyo, or embodied lotus, our lives which undergo the cycle of birth and death are neither inherently good nor evil. Based on different causes and conditions, they can undergo a state of delusion or a state of enlightenment. In terms of the 10 worlds, our lives have the innate potential to embody any of the worlds from hell to Buddhahood. This represents the true nature of our lives. Okay? Our lives are clean and pure. If you go to the Lotus Sutra, or if you read the orally transmitted teachings, all 28 chapters are Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. He talks about this clean and pure aspect. He qualifies, you're not defiled. Everything is clean and pure. This is clean and pure. Everything's clean and pure. Everything that you think isn't clean is really clean and pure. It's your mind that is seeing it as not clean and pure. It's your delusion that cannot perceive the truth that it is clean and pure. Okay? That's mentioned in the orally transmitted teachings just in that, like, I think 18 times I counted. I did a search. All right? So, clean and pure is the true nature of your life. All right? Okay? Because based on the simultaneity of cause and effect, it doesn't matter what causes you've already made. You can change all of them. You can flip everything from their diluted aspect to their enlightened aspect. Do you understand? You don't have to undo. You don't have to unwind this over a reflective number of lifetimes that it took for you to screw it up. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the mercy of the Buddha. The simultaneity, and it's because of this simultaneity of cause and effect that we can make that leap. We can make that flip. All right? The simultaneity of cause and effect is the foundation of inner transformation. Next, to amplify the meaning of the entity of Myoho Renge-kyo, or embodied lotus, Nichiren Daishonin cites a passage by Tentai, living beings and their environments and the causes and effects at work within them are all the law of Renge, the lotus. Here, living beings and their environments refers to life activity itself, which undergoes the two phases of life and death. The relationship among life activity and living beings and their environments is now being studied scientifically as well. And what he's talking about, this life activity, living beings and their environments, when we talk about that, everybody's familiar with the three realms? Do you realize, okay, what does manifest reality exist of? It exists of three realms. Okay? It exists of the realm of the person. There's us as a temporary gathering of the five components, right? The second one's a realm, but it's kind of a realm in theory, or a realm in relationship to, because the first realm, the realm of the five components of living individuals, living entities, they never exist by themselves, right? Always
It's
a mommy and a daddy, right?
Yeah,
So it's the realm of the persons. So the first realm is the realm of the person. The second realm is the realm of the persons, because the realm of the person never exists by itself. Person always is with persons.
And then
That's the second realm. Then they got to have a place to live, right? Living beings don't just appear in the air and like, they're translucent. No, they're always in an environment. They're always reflecting karma. They're always reflecting either delusion or enlightenment. Okay, that's the environment. The environment forms first, and then the other two realms are attracted to that. So this is those three realms. This is the phenomenal realm. This is reality as it exists in the phenomenal realm. Person, persons, and environment. That's the whole universe. Okay? Various causal phenomena on page 33 occur in living beings, in their environments, and also between living beings and their environments. Does everybody understand that? Right? Natural disasters, your neighbors, the tropical trees or the desert, whatever it might be, that's all contained within what he just discussed there. Everybody has the environment that they live in. Everybody has the people around them that they're born with, and everybody has themselves, is himself. Thank you. Okay, various causal phenomena occur in living beings, in their environments, and also between living beings and their environments. Nichiren says that all these phenomena are simply part of the phases of life and death. In other words, so all those different environments, all those living beings are just part of this life and death aspect of the reality of the law that comprises everything. Everything goes through those two phases. Are simply a part of the phases of life and death which are inherent in the mystic law. This means that the various causal phenomena involving living beings and their environments also essentially arise in accord with the law of the lotus, the law of the simultaneity of cause and effect. In other words, this law is at work in living beings and their environments. What is the practical implication of this truth? Nichiren teaches that when we change our fundamental attitude or mindset, we can instantly transform both our lives and our environments. Now, how do we transform our environment? How do you change the phenomenal realm around you? Do you turn an auto shop into a hospital? I mean, what does that really mean? Nietzsche teaches that when we change our fundamental attitude or mindset, we can instantly transform both our lives, which you could understand. If I change my mindset, my attitude changes, I'll be happier instead of being sad or bummed out. But how does our environment change?
We change.
Exactly. Because our environment is really static, and how we perceive our environment, how we experience our environment is really moment by moment a reflection of us. So when we change, how the environment, how we interact with the environment changes. It no longer is a bad place. Our life condition allows us to perceive it and exist in it with a changed circumstance, right? In the Buddhist teachings expounded prior to the Lotus Sutra, it was taught that living beings were shackled in suffering as retribution for negative causes created in past existences, and that they could only hope to change this after carrying out countless eons of Buddhist practice and being reborn in a new higher state of life in the future. You saw I've got ha! By contrast, that's delusion. By contrast, Nietzsche teaches that a profound change in our attitude or mindset can instantly transform our lives without changing who we are. So that means we can become Buddhists just as we are without changing anything that we are. Okay? And when we change inside, not only do our lives change, but our environment changes as well. Okay? The law of the lotus at the top of page 34, the mystic law of the simultaneity of cause and effect, enables us to reveal the infinite potential inherent in our lives and attain a state of complete freedom spanning the three existences, past, present, and future. That's Buddha. All right? Everybody's with me, right? Right?
Yes.
Okay, so all changing phenomena are manifestations of the phases of life and death of the mystic law. On page 34, middle of the column 1. So far, our discussion of the mystic law and the lotus has shown that Myoho Renge-kyo is a great law that teaches the profound significance of the life and death of living beings. Nichiren Daishonin concludes that all birth and death and all change are manifestations of the phases of life and death, which are inherent functions of Myoho Renge-kyo. First, he cites a passage from a commentary by the great teacher Dengyo of Japan, which states the two phases of life and death are the wonderful workings of one mind. The two ways of existence and non-existence are the true functions of an inherently enlightened mind. This is to clarify that all changes derive from the one ultimate law, the mystic law of the simultaneity of cause and effect. Everybody's with me, right? The wonderful workings of one mind might be more easily understood if explained as the principle of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. A change in our mind or a single moment, a life moment, can greatly alter our life state, our state of life, and open up our world. This is because our lives as entities of mutual possession of the 10 worlds are endowed with the transformative potential to bring forth any of the 3,000 realms, and that is all the potential of the entire universe, the ultimate potential being Buddhahood, right? Has everybody said right what he understood? The one mind of Buddhahood, right? We don't all have different minds of Buddhahood. It's the same Buddhahood, right? Mm-hmm. That's why it's the one mind. He's saying the wonderful workings of one mind might be more easily understood if explained as the principle of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life, which is the simultaneity of cause and effect, which allows you to be a common mortal in the 9 worlds and manifest the 10th world in your present form, right? A change in our mind or a single life moment, a change in our mind, the change to, to perceive yourself as the Buddha, and for that to be at a level where that's now what your identity is, okay? A change in our mind or single life moment can greatly alter our state of life and open up our world by allowing us to live in the world as a Buddha in our present form. This is because our lives as entities in mutual possession of the 10 worlds can become Buddha in our present form, are endowed with the transformative potential to bring forth any of the 3,000 realms, including the 10th world. Get it? And that is all the potential of the entire universe. Because everything is that causality. Okay? Everything in the universe is in those two phases. Everything in the universe is Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. So he says, next, Nichiren writes, no phenomena, either heaven or earth, yin or yang, the sun or the moon, the 5 planets, or any of the worlds from hell to Buddhahood, are free from the 2 phases of life and death. And by the way, as I'm reading this, if you haven't chanted the Daimoku that will allow you to understand this, as it's being actually expressed for you to understand it, you're not going to understand it by just reading.
Right.
The
That's
theoretical
true.
element of all this is going to leave you with ticks and twitches. Okay? It's only as the Buddha, if you read this, that you'll actually understand exactly what he's saying. So bring forth that life condition with you read it. If you have any hiccups or giggles about what's being said, or your life condition is sort of like, I'm not, that's not really, you need to chant Daimoku. Not question what's being said, or wonder about what's being said, okay? Next, Nichiren writes, no phenomena, either heaven or earth, yin or yang, the sun or the moon, the 5 planets, or any of the worlds from hell to Buddhahood are free from the 2 phases of life and death. Because Buddhism teaches the principle of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life and the mutually inclusive relationship of a single moment of life and all phenomena, right? Everybody understands that, right? Okay. Environmental factors such as heaven and earth, yin and yang, the sun and the moon, and the 5 planets are also entities of the mystic law that go through the phases of life and death. And we've already discussed that, right? Solar systems, universe, whatever. This is also the true, this is also true of living beings and environments of the 10 worlds, here indicated by any of the worlds from hell to Buddhahood. So everything is all is included. Heaven or earth, yin or yang, the sun or the moon, the 5 planets, expresses the cosmology of the ancient Chinese classics, while the worlds from hell to Buddhahood expresses the cosmology of Buddhism originating from its earliest inception in India. The prevalent view of the world and the universe during Nichiren's lifetime was widely influenced by Chinese tradition and philosophy, including the principles and theory of yin and yang and the 5 elements. This developed through the transmission of the philosophy of yin and yang in Japan, where it metamorphosized into a unique system of belief and practice, and through the transmission of various Tentai school commentaries on the Buddhist sutras, which were heavily influenced by Chinese thought. Nichiren's choice of terminology here can be seen as reflecting such a philosophical backdrop, right? He's expressing it in the thought of the day, the understanding of the day, for the sake of qualifying that this isn't just about earth and now, this is everywhere. That's what he was talking about, yin and yang and the sun and the moon and the 5 planets. He's taking it outside of the realm of just earth, okay? Nichiren is saying that heaven and earth, as well as the forces of yin and yang, which is like equal and co-equal, right? There's always a rhythm, you know what yin and yang is, right? It says so back here, by the way, on page 38, if you want to understand yin and yang. Nichiren is saying that the heaven and earth, as well as the forces of yin and yang that underlie them, along with the sun and the moon and the 5 elements, are ultimately all manifestation of the phases of life and death, and that are inherent functions of Myoho Renge Kyo. Indeed, this is true of all phenomena. All phenomena are functions of life and death, as indicated by the statement, no phenomena are free from the 2 phases of life and death. Everybody's with me? So everything is just life or death. That's pretty cut and dry.
Yes.
Yeah. Our lives, in terms of both our subjective beings and our objective environment, are entities of Myoho Renge Kyo, as are all things in the universe. I guess it took us a while to get to that point, but that's what we're really saying here. Hence, Tentai states arising is the arising of the essential nature of the law, the Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, and extinction is the extinction of that nature. Here, essential nature of the law, namely the Dharma nature, means that the true nature of all things. This true nature is none other than Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Continuing on page 35, the two Buddhas, Shakyamuni and many treasures, the two phases of life and death. Next, Nichiren Daishonin writes, Shakyamuni and many treasures, the two Buddhas, are also the two phases of life and death. The Buddha Shakyamuni and many treasures, seated side by side in the treasure tower during the ceremony in the air, personify the world of Buddhahood inherent in Myoho Renge Kyo. Like us ordinary beings, they are entities of the mystic law and go through the phases of life and death. Shakyamuni and many treasures, okay, are no different than you, is what that just said. In this passage, Shakyamuni represents the Lord of teachings whose true identity is revealed in the essential teaching, the second half of the Lotus Sutra. He is the Buddha who has constantly abided in this Sahi world to continue expounding the mystic law after attaining enlightenment in the remote past of numberless major world system dust particle kalpas. In the lifespan chapter of the Lotus Sutra, Shakyamuni discloses that though he gained supreme enlightenment in the distant past and is a Buddha who abides constantly, is a Buddha, not the Buddha. Just like you and me, we also constantly abide in the world without ever entering extinction, right? Do you ever become extinct? No. We just come back and do this again and again and again, just like Shakyamuni. That's why this thing started from the beginning. You got to understand, Shakyamuni, who attained countless kalpas ago, the Lotus Sutra leads all people. We're no different or separate in any other, in any way. So he's saying, in the lifespan chapter of the Lotus Sutra, Shakyamuni discloses that though he gained supreme enlightenment in the distant past and is a Buddha who abides constantly in the world without ever entering extinction, he has pretended to enter nirvana as an expedient means to guide living beings to enlightenment. Hence, his statement, as an expedient means I appear to enter nirvana. This indicates how the entity of the Buddha's life, though in essence the eternal mystic law, actually undergoes a transition from life to death on the phenomenal level. This is deep because he's going to get into what that transition is here in a minute. Say it again. Hence his statement, as an expedient means I appear to enter nirvana. This indicates how the entity of the Buddha's life, that's your essence, right? Mm-hmm. Though in essence the eternal mystic law, so in essence that essence is Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, actually undergoes a transition from life to death on the phenomenal level. What's going on? The phenomenal level. What's being experienced? All right. Mm-hmm. When you go into Ku, you don't just go to sleep. You don't experience nothing. You don't just experience. The next experience is life again. That's not what. No, actually, you go into a state of Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. You're part of the thing that is expressing the Buddha nature to everybody. You become part of Nam Myoho Renge Kyo that everybody's experiencing. Oh, this is a beautiful concept. Let me read it. As for many treasures, Buddha, he is an ancient Buddha who attained enlightenment and entered nirvana in the distant past. He appears at the assembly where the Lotus Sutra is preached to attest to the truth of its teachings, right? We all know that, right? His appearance can be said to symbolize an entity of the mystic law, emerging from the phase of death into life, just as we do, okay? In any event, for both Shakyamuni and many treasures, life and death are means for teaching and revealing the mystic law. Because they employ the phases of life and death inherent to all entities of the mystic law, these two Buddhas are also functions of the mystic law. They're not separate from Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, even though Nam Myoho Renge Kyo is the Buddhism of sowing. Right? Everybody understands? Mm-hmm. And that's Buddha. Shakyamuni taught Buddhism of the harvest, but it's still an entity of the mystic law. All living entities are entities of that mystic law. It has not been qualified and identified until the fifth 500-year period. Page 36, the life and death of living beings in the world of Buddhahood. This is all going to be Soka philosophy. The life and death of all living beings are functions of Myoho Rengekyo. Here we go. Jose Toda often used to say that when we die, we merge with the universe. The life of the universe itself contains all the 10 worlds. It contains the worlds from hell and hunger right through to Buddhahood. When we die, our life essence fuses with one of these worlds in the universe. Hell, hungry spirits, bodhisattva, and so forth, corresponding to our own inner state. While we may say that our life essence fuses or merges with the life of the universe, strictly speaking, it is actually already part of the life of the universe itself. Inherently, there is no separation between the two. Right now, you're already fused with the life essence of the universe, okay? In a sense, the universe is a great ocean of life, which is in a constant state of flux. In other words, it's never the same from moment to moment. It is continually moving and changing, performing the rhythm of birth and death. As we confirmed in the previous installment, on one level, our individual lives can be compared to waves that rise from the surface of the vast ocean of the universe. The rising of each wave is analogous to one's individual birth, while the receding of the wave back into the ocean symbolizes one's death. In death, our life essence, our karmic influence, our life essence is like a current flowing within the ocean's depths. It does not become fixed in one particular place. It pervades the universe and moves in sync with the cosmic rhythm of birth and death. President Toda used to say that living beings are reborn in response to causes and conditions, taking the body and mind and environment most suited to their particular state of life. In the case of living beings in the world of Buddhahood, they can freely choose the time, place, and form in which they wish to be reborn. I'll say it again. President Toda used to say that living beings are reborn in response to causes and conditions, taking the body and mind and environment most suited to their particular state of life. In the case of living beings in the world of Buddhahood, those that were able to die in the realm of Buddhahood, right? Do it the way they're supposed to, so that they're eternally done with that process. They'll always make it to the 10th world and die in the realm of Buddhahood in the future. They can freely choose the time, place, and form in which they wish to be reborn. Okay? So if you do that in this lifetime, how you appeared, what you did, you made all those determinations yourself, karmically. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. All right. This is the reality of life and death as functions of Myoho Rengekyo. Okay? When life and death are viewed in terms of the mystic law, there is no need to fear death. Death for living beings in the world of Buddhahood means becoming one with the universe that overflows with the workings of compassion. Then when we are reborn embodying the compassion and life force of the universe, we once again take vibrant action and conduct ourselves in the manner of a Buddha. In other words, taking the greatest joy in respecting others and working to lead all people to enlightenment. When we are alive, we reveal the vast state of Buddhahood in our lives, tapping its immense life force to fulfill our mission in this world. Naturally, chanting Nam Myoho Rengekyo is the fundamental practice for bringing forth this boundless state of being, not understanding this philosophy. Being the Buddha is not understanding the philosophy. Being the Buddha is chanting Daimoku every day, overcoming everything that you're faced with. Is the fundamental practice for bringing forth this boundless state of being. And after we die, we merge with the world of Buddhahood in the universe and deeply savor and enjoy the eternity of life. The life and death of living beings in the world of Buddhahood is the most sublime life and death, characterized throughout by great joy. Nichiren Daishonin clearly states one who acts in accord with the original intention of the Buddhas of the three existences, which is to make all others equal to themselves, right? Will, without hindrance, attain the highest level of rebirth in the land of tranquil light, which is this world when we attain Buddhahood, right? In our present form. Then in no time, one will return to the dream realm of the nine worlds, the realm of birth and death, will cause one's body to pervade the lands of the entire phenomenal realm of the 10 directions, and will cause one's mind to enter into the bodies of all sentient beings, encouraging them from within, because you're now one with the Buddha nature that they're experiencing as sentient beings, right? That Buddha mind that's at work. You're a part of that Buddha mind when you're in Ku. Do you understand what this is saying? You're one. You become one with Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. That Nam Myoho Renge Kyo is what's going on there. You're one with that. You're a part of that. Do you understand? Encouraging them from within, leading and guiding them from without, inner and outer, complementing one another, causes and conditions functioning in harmony. And then in this way, we utilize the pity and compassion of one's freely exercised transcendental powers to bestow unhindered benefit upon living beings far and wide. All right, that's from the unanimous declaration of the Buddhas of the three existences regarding classification of the teachings and which are to be abandoned and which are upheld. That spooky Gosho that says don't tell anybody because they might slander. Yeah, you read that one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. As Nichiren indicates here, living beings who seek to be reborn in the world to lead others to happiness. Okay, as Nichiren indicates here, living beings who seek to be reborn in order to lead others to happiness. Now, who would that be talking about? Bodhisattvas of the earth. Okay? Can realize a swift rebirth, freely and without hindrance.
No.
Oh, I like it. That's the closest thing you can get to immortality. You know, if you can go through the cycle of life, which everything has to go into death, right? Everything. But you can come right back into life again. Boom, 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 in and out. That's how Mr. Osaki explained it to me. He says, Tom, that's as close as you can get to eternal. It never stops. You can come back as fast as you want. You be in life most of the time. Okay? There doesn't have to be these vast periods between lifetimes. Right? You're a busy person as the Buddha. By contrast, a view of life and death based on the notion of an ideal world existing somewhere apart from this reality, a place we should aspire to dwell in forever after we die, cannot hope to serve as a force for fundamentally changing the world in which we live. Because if we regard some idealized world as the true world, we end up seeing this Sahi world as a provisional realm. The view of life and death based on the mystic law represents an optimistic and hopeful perspective that can genuinely serve as a powerful force for change while allowing us to enjoy lives of absolute freedom and fulfillment in the real world. President Toda frequently said, again, this whole thing's been President Toda, when we understand the true eternity of life, we can elevate the life state of all humankind. And he would add that this amounted to leading all people to enlightenment. What precisely does it mean to lead all people to enlightenment? President Toda explained this as follows. When all people manifest the life state of Buddhahood, that is to say, when they reveal the supreme value of their character, there will be neither war nor hunger, neither disease nor poverty in the world. Enabling all people to attain enlightenment, elevating the character of all people is something of supreme value. This is what it means to carry out the thus come one's work. When bodhisattvas of the earth appear throughout the world and people awaken to the eternity of life and the true, inherent nature of life and death as functions of the mystic law, there will be an unprecedented revolution in people's view of life and death. At that time, we can definitely transform the karma of humankind, which has long been led astray by the four sufferings: birth, aging, sickness, and death. These sufferings arise from fundamental darkness or ignorance towards life's ultimate truth, which we've discussed here in this last segment here, right? The new challenge before us now is to bring this view of life and death to worldwide prominence. So, the new challenge before us now is to bring this view of life and death as Buddhas to worldwide prominence and make the 21st century the true starting point for dramatically elevating the life state of humanity by helping them understand the truth of life, by doing shakabuku, by expressing the teaching of Nietzsche, Buddhism and so on. Okay? So, we're a little over, but this will only take a second. Key points on page 39. Also, if you go to this and you see the thing, I got 3 points that I thought you really should know about that I didn't get to when we were reading this. Read the background on 3 where he's talking about the lifespan of the Lotus chapter of the Lotus Sutra states, thus come one perceives the true aspect of the threefold world. Okay, because that's talking about the threefold world a minute ago. I mentioned that. And then the lotus of the entity is point 6. Reread that again. It's very important that you understand that concept. And then also point 12, the mutually inclusive relationship of a single moment of life and all phenomena. Because that's, that's hard to wrap your head around if you don't understand it. The entity of, going on page 39, key points. The entity of Myoho Geikyo indicates life's transformative potential. The lives of all living beings here and now are entities of the mutual possession of the 10 worlds and have the potential to manifest the highest world of Buddhahood just as they are. The simultaneity of cause and effect is the foundation of inner transformation. Various causal phenomena occur in living beings and in their environments, and also between living beings and their environments. Nietzsche says that all these phenomena are simply part of the phases of life and death, which are inherent in the mystic law. This means that the various causal phenomena involving living beings and their environments also essentially arise in accord with the law of the lotus, the law of the simultaneity of the law of cause and effect. In other words, this law is at work in living beings and their environments. What is the practical implication of this truth? Nietzsche teaches that when we change our fundamental attitude or mindset, we can instantly transform both our lives and our environments. Second column on page 39. All changing phenomena are manifestations of the phases of life and death of the mystic law. Our lives, in terms of both our subjective beings and our objective environment, are entities of Myoho Rengekyo, as are all things in the universe. Hence, Tentai states, arising is the arising of the essential nature of the law, and extinction is the extinction of that nature. Here, essential nature of the law, namely the Dharma nature, or the Buddhahood, means that, namely Dharma nature means that the true nature of all things, means the true nature of all things. This true nature is none other than Myoho Rengekyo. Pardon me. Life and death, the life and death of living beings in the world of Buddhahood. While we may say that our life essence fuses or merges with the life of the universe, strictly speaking, it is actually already part of the life of the universe itself. Inherently, there is no separation between the two. In a sense, the universe is a great ocean of life, which is in a constant state of flux itself. It is continually moving and changing, performing the rhythm of birth and death. Dialogue and reflection, and we're finished. Question 1, Nietzsche teaches that a profound change in our attitude or mindset can instantly transform our lives without changing who we are. How have you experienced this in your own life? I talk about it all the time. 2, SGI President Ikeda states, if we regard some idealized world as the true world, we end up seeing the Sahe world as a provisional realm. The view of life and death based on the mystic law represents an optimistic and hopeful perspective that can genuinely serve as a powerful force for change while allowing us to enjoy lives of absolute freedom and fulfillment in the real world. How has your faith in Nichiren Buddhism changed your view of the world in which we live? Okay? And next week we'll start on page 41, chapter 5.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wow.